Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna try, is my mic on right now? You guys, oh, this is great. I can't even tell, this is perfect. Thank you, Seth. It really means a lot to hear Seth speak like that. I've got mixed feelings about it because he set the bar. Now you guys have expectations of me, so we'll see what I can do to deliver. In this piece, Lead Yourself, Serve Others, and Inspire, the way Seth had mentioned, I'm really lucky because really I'm getting the opportunity to kind of share some stories with you guys today about the culture that we really hold dear at Intrigue every day. And we're really lucky to have a group of people that believe in this type of thing. And there's probably gonna be a full circle here at the end, so I won't ruin it. But to kind of get into this and to stay true to the culture at Intrigue where we work, and one of the things that, for me anyway, I used to always think that there's this defining line between how I should be at work and how I should be at home, and they're different. And I've realized that, well, if you are who you really want to be, then there really is no difference between where you are or what you're doing and who you want to be when you're at work and when you're at home. So I've really bought into this whole idea of starting with why. And there's this great TED Talk by Simon Sinek, if anybody's had a chance to see it, and it's all about inspiring leaders and inspiring organizations and what they do differently than others. And the whole idea of the way they communicate, starting with why, is the big difference. And I will figure out technology today. This is a brand new Bluetooth. This is $100, by the way. I don't know if you realize this. I thought it was going to be like 20 bucks, and I was like, this is crazy. Hopefully it'll work. Great. So why leadership? On that note, starting with why, being true to what we do every day. The thing for me, and it was interesting, we have this leadership lunch. George, I mentioned I might pick on you a little bit today. And you said that's cool, right? Yeah. That's still the case? Yeah. Thank you. And Seth comes to it as well. And so once a month we gather a whole bunch of people in the community and who are, kind of intrinsically motivated to share ideas around leadership and be a leader themselves and improve leadership and kind of bring our community together stronger that way. And one person said, why did you start this group? Like, why did you decide this would be a good idea? And I was like, wow, that's a really good question. But I had an answer pretty quickly. It was all around the idea that if there was more leadership in our community and more leaders around us, there'd be less people waiting for something to happen and more people out making things happen. And that's something I believe in really, really strongly. I'm not sure where it hit me, but one day, I think it was I lived in Whistler for a couple of years, and I was like looking up at the stars in some, weird moment of my life with no money. I'd been eating soup for many days in a row. Campbell's Lipton's noodle or something, I don't know, something like that. I must have been malnourished or something because I saw, something, and it just dawned on me that it all starts with one person. And I thought this was such an inspiring image because it's what it means. That's leadership to me. It wasn't some guy in a position, it wasn't some CEO, it wasn't the president of a country, it wasn't some person that's been established as what we would traditionally consider a leader. It was a person who stood up for something they believed in to create change in the world around them. And don't get me wrong, it's Tiananmen Square. This is a very impactful, emotional piece for a lot of people, so I figured, it would really kind of prove the point, and I really wanted to share it with you guys. But this is the big thing of why I think leadership is so important, because I hear way too often people talk about, they do this, and, it shouldn't be that way, and if they did it differently, it's like, who is they? It's like, don't get me wrong, I still think it's Google and maybe Microsoft, but really though, they is us. And there's this disconnect between our ability to make an impact in our life every day, and I hear it a lot, that there's like this separation between what's happening and what we're able to make happen. I think that's just gotta go away. So there was a couple little things I wanted to share with you, and I think these are just some of the things that I found as I was putting this presentation together 3 weeks ago. And I was really nervous when Seth asked me to do this. Actually, I wasn't nervous right away because he asked me to do it a long time ago. And then I got nervous because I was like, oh, I got to really figure my stuff out. And then I started putting it together and I was less nervous. And then I got here and I was like, oh, this is great. Now I'm not nervous at all. And then you guys came in the room and I got really nervous again. I think my palms are perspirating way too much. But I wanted to share with you, so the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. It seems straightforward, but it's the truth. Anybody who says I can change the world can. Anybody who says I can't change the world can't. It's just done. That's the way it goes. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not easy. But the one who says they can do it and is crazy enough to believe it goes out and makes it happen. I just wish there was more people crazy enough to believe it could happen. I got a 1-year-old little guy. A little forecasting, I guess. You'll see him in a bit. But Dr. Seuss is becoming more relevant to my life. I mean, it was relevant, now it's more relevant. Kids, you'll move mountains. Today is your day, your mountain is waiting, so get on your way, Dr. Seuss. How cool is that? You know, if we could just not let go of those ideas once we become 12, 13, 14, cynical, whatever that happens, I don't know. But this is something that really means a lot to me because it's the truth. And sometimes I think that we get too caught up in how big a mountain is so we don't bother going up it. And it was really interesting. There was, we shared a TED Talk today from a gentleman named Jim Estel. I don't know if anybody's heard of this guy, Guelph guy, owns Cynics, pretty cool. Actually, Georgie mentioned the idea of his success habits at one of our leadership lunches. And one of them was he doesn't get in a shower until he breaks a sweat, which is pretty cool. But he said, often people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a decade. I think that's a really, really important piece that we all forget, myself included. And too many people are waiting for someone else to give them a push. I see it all the time, and it's why we're so compelled to try to build empowerment and leadership in our four walls, outside our four walls, and hopefully today I might inspire you to be crazy enough to think that you can move a mountain and change the world yourself. I don't know if you guys have heard the millennials and baby boomers and the differences and all this workplace intergenerational differences. One of the things that really sticks out to me is this idea that millennials aren't loyal. On average, they spend 3 years at a job, whereas boomers spend on average 11 years, sometimes full careers at jobs, and that's just gone. Because millennials are not loyal, they feel entitled. This is the type of vocabulary I'm hearing. I went to a Chamber of Commerce, intergenerational differences in the workplace and how to manage them. There was a person from the University of Guelph, a professor, speaking about all these ideas and the perceptions. And I gotta say it, from my perspective, it's because leadership is weak. It's not because there's a lack of loyalty. It's that leadership needs to change because it's not like it used to be. This is what happened in my perspective in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, and it was okay because people were motivated by keeping their jobs so they could have food on the table and a roof over their head. But it's not like that anymore, especially in Canada. Like, we have a lot of safety nets. A lot of our parents have money. Even if they don't, we get taken care of by our country. So people are motivated by different things. And I gotta tell you, I mean, there was I worked at a hotel. Let's leave it at that. I don't need to name any names or brand anybody. And I got to work at 9:01 a.m. Like, I'm swiping I'm in my uniform, went to the locker room, I'm up 9:01, swiping my card 9:01. Like, I'm at my workstation, fully ready to go 9:01. And my manager goes, 9:01. Yep, 9:01. You're late. I was like, I'm inspired. Like, oh man, I'm gonna move mountains for this guy. Like, I just start my whole day like, I don't want to be here. Like, this is crazy. This type of leadership doesn't work anymore, and my peers and the people that work at Intrigue won't stand for this, but it hasn't changed quite yet. Maslow's hierarchy, we use it for a lot of different things around where we are, and I think it's really neat to be able to present this because I learned it in university, and it's good to see that my education is useful outside of university. But back in the day, we were physiologically motivated and safety motivated. We wanted to make sure we could eat. We wanted to make sure we had clothes. And we would suffer the consequences of not being in a great environment in order to make sure we had that and provided for our family. Social media is proof that we are no longer motivated as much by this, and we're massively motivated by our friends, social circles, peers, what they think about us, and even more so, the prestige we have in those circles, and even beyond that, and it's lesser, but actualization and self-enlightenment and these types of ideas. These two needs are being met on a regular basis, so we're motivated by different things. So we want to be around other like-minded people. We want to be held with respect, and we want to be trusted. And weak leadership that was very like autocratic and like borderline dictatorships in classic organizations doesn't respect that stuff. So people leave, and they go to try to find something with meaning. So I would argue millennials aren't disloyal. I would say leadership is weak. So today I'm going to talk about leading ourselves, serving others, and what that can turn into in terms of inspiring the people around us. This was a concept introduced to me by another member of this leadership lunch, and it was a great client of ours. And he told me this story, and I'm not sure if you've heard it before, but it's about a young man who gets cursed, and he needs to eat a frog for the rest of his life, every day. Anybody here French? Okay, so I mean, like, it's not fun. Eating a live frog, right? Of all things, it's a live frog. Every day. This kid's not happy about it, right? I wouldn't be happy about it either. And if you had to do it for the rest of your life, every single day, when would you do it? You know, would you do it in the morning? Would you do it in the middle of the day? Would you do it at night? I think at the beginning, I'd start doing it at night because I'm like, oh man, I really don't want to do this. But after, I think I'd start doing it at the beginning of the day and get it over with. And we've seen this a lot with the people around us. And I'm just going to take a couple of stories in context in my experience. We work with clients. We're Intrigue, where I work with Seth and had the pleasure of meeting him. We're a marketing company. We help people get noticed and found. There's my selfish plug, yada, yada. But we're not perfect. We mess up. We make mistakes. Balls get dropped. Things are late sometimes. It happens. And you know, we live in this world of online marketing and digital video production and all this kind of stuff. And it's difficult to really kind of wrap everything into a tight little ball that's easy to kind of manage and align. It's not like you're putting widgets through a production line and then selling widgets. It's all kind of a Rubik's Cube every single time we go through it. And balls drop. And we have really great people who care about it. So like, some people wouldn't care if ball drops, and they'd be like, well, it's life, or no big deal, they call people up, whatever. But we got people that actually lose sleep over it, and they get a lot of anxiety around it. And then what happens is, I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard this, the MUM effect, M-U-M effect. Again, this is great. This is Psychology 101 or whatever. This is university. I get to bring it up to past university, which is great. The MUM effect is this idea that we all have a hard time giving bad news to people because we don't want to, because it's going to be conflict. It's not an easy conversation, so we decide not to say anything at all. And it's the same thing. So then we sit there and we stew about it. We get anxious, and it doesn't go away. And I'm not sure about you guys, but for me, when I was in high school and university and even this type of stuff, I get these projects. I have to write an essay. I have to read a book and write an essay on this book. And I get like 2 months to do it. I'm like, no problem. This is going to be a breeze. I title my document, the name of the essay. I got 3 months, I'm already started. This is great. 2 weeks before the deadline, I'm like, 2 weeks. I'll read a chapter. If I read a chapter a day for the rest, I can read 14 chapters, I'll be good to go. Write my essay the last day. 7 days to go. Still 1 chapter in with a headline. Starting to get a little anxious. Like, oh man, I don't want to do this. This is a lot of project right now. It's going to kill me. 3 days left. Can't sleep. 2 days left. Can I Google Cole's notes? No, because I'm 32 and Google really didn't work that well. I had to actually buy a Cole's Notes book, and I did. And I'm writing an essay at like 4 in the morning. I'm like 15 years old. Like, this is crazy. What am I doing? I go to school the next day. I'm like exhausted. Typos everywhere. 65%. But when I got done it, I was like, man, that was easy. It's like 4:30 in the morning, but I'm like, that wasn't that bad. I started at 1 in the morning, 4:30, only 3.5 hours. But I was all anxious. And so we have this idea, it's not how you feel that determines what you do, it's what you do that determines how you feel. And when you don't swallow your frogs, you feel anxious, you don't feel good about it, but when you swallow them, as much as they don't taste good when you're done, you're like, oh, that's great. Anybody here ever have a gym membership? Please, somebody help me out here. Great. You don't count, George, because you're just crazy, but that's a different story. For me, I'm not sure about if you guys share this, I don't like going there. I love leaving the gym. I'm like, yeah, I worked out, I'm good, that felt awesome. But going there kills me. I don't want to go, I don't want to start, especially when it's snowing, forget about it. But once I do it, I feel great. And when I don't do it, I feel guilty. Because I'm only cheating myself. But I think that's the biggest part about leading yourself, leading myself, is not cheating ourselves. We all make too many commitments. Look at New Year's resolutions. I made one, not to drink beer for January, and I killed it. I did it though, right? Years before, I was like, bold, I'm gonna have a six-pack by October. I don't have a six-pack. But small things over time make big differences. And I think we all make too many commitments, and I'll get to that more in a second. Group projects. We have this saying around our office. Do what you say you're gonna do when you say you're gonna do it, especially when we're promising things to each other. You know, if you're gonna cheat yourself, well then, so be it, but you're not gonna hurt anybody else if you don't do what you say you're gonna do when you say you're gonna do it when it's a promise to yourself. But when it's a promise to somebody else, we gotta make sure we follow through. And what's interesting, when we started Intrigue Media, so I've started with Paul DeMarco, a co-founder. We were floor mates in university at Guelph. Crazy, whatever, he said, let's get a TV. I was like, all right, cool, let's do it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're doing it. We got this TV set up at the University of Guelph where people pay us $50 a month for us to put a video that we produced with literally an HP point-and-shoot camera and a Toshiba laptop with Windows Movie Maker. But people were happy, $50 a month, they're at the university, they were trying to draw kids downtown, you know, before 11 p.m. And we ended up with this trainer, and the trainer said, well, have you asked this? We ended up with like 15 clients. We're like, wow, this is crazy, you know, we're making $750 a month. We were over the moon. Like, this is amazing. We didn't expect it. We had to pay for tuition because we spent our OSAP on beer, but that's a different story. And he said, have you asked your clients why they work with you? And I was like, of course I know why they work with us. Because we have this TV at the University Center, got some other TVs engaging university students. You know, we create pretty cool videos. It's affordable. We know why they work with us. He's like, did they tell you that, or do you just think that? I was like, well, I know that, but they haven't told us. Okay, well, why don't you go ask them why? We go ask them why, and they say, because you did what you said you're going to do. We would say, okay, we'll make a video for you. We'll come back. We'll do it for free. If you like the video, pay us $50. We'll put it at the university. No contract. They're like, easy, right? No risk. And then we would go there with this HP point-and-shoot camera. Literally, it's like this big. It was like 2 AA batteries. Awesome. We made this video. We'd go back. We'd be like, here's your video. And they every time we walk through the door, I'd be like they're back, you know? I didn't know why they were doing that. I thought, you know, maybe my hair was crazy. I had longer hair. But they said, we trust you guys because you follow through. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know that's why you'd work with somebody. I thought that would be normal. And then we found out later that it isn't actually normal, which is kind of crazy. But you remember in like group projects, there was that person who said, hey, you know, I'll get this done. And then they didn't. And then your respect for them just like plummeted and you never wanted to be in their group again. So a lot of nodding heads, right? But then a lot of times we go into this business world and then people are like, hey, I'll get your proposal for Wednesday. Thursday they send it. And it's like, yeah, you know, no big deal. Like, well, it is a big deal. You didn't do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Super important from our perspective. You know, if we lose that much respect for somebody in an educational setting where there's literally no risk, I mean, you might end up with a C instead of an A. And if you're at, you know, a higher education place and it's one project in one class, you're getting your degree and you're still going to have a great, you know, grade point average. Does it really have much impact? No, it's low risk. But then we get into the real world and we forget about it. But there is real risk. But a lot of people, I'm not saying you guys, I know it's not you guys, but others around us are doing that stuff. It's crazy. So do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. I think this is like one of the biggest things that come along with leading yourself. It's far too often do I see people overcommitting. I think this is just awesome because I got a 1-year-old who's like doing this stuff right now. He's trying to walk, and yesterday he literally split his lip open on his tooth. It was kind of tough, I know. This is the mother of my child and the best person in the whole world, Megan. I get a text. I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, we're fine. But he's doing it. You know, this little kid is like trying to get up and trying to go. This little fawn doing the same thing, right? But we all get we tend to, anyway, I see it a lot of time when people join an organization, they get paralyzed with moving forward because they don't know exactly how to do it yet, and they're not great at it yet, so they don't want to do it at all. And a lot of people are caught up on being perfect instead of making decisions and failing. And I think this is something where we use a lot. Get outside your comfort zone. Fail fast, quick, go, smash your face. Maybe not literally. I mean, maybe in Hunter's case it's literal because he's one. That's happening. But I lived in Whistler for a couple years, and I jumped off cliffs like this, and it was scary. It was scary, like really scary. But I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. It's scary like crazy. My brother used to tell me, if you're scared of something, just do it anyway. I hated that. And there was this walkway. I lived in Carleton Place. Anybody know where Carleton Place is? Ottawa Valley? Okay, there's one person. Sweet, thank you. It's a cool little spot. You do too? Yeah, there's more. Wow, they keep popping up. This is great. Someone was like, oh, there's someone else. Okay, I'll say, oh, beautiful little town, like 8,000 people, a little river, and my brother moved out there, and I got to go out there when I was like 17 years old for the summer, in between like semesters at high school, or in between grades. And we were like 200 meters, maybe 300 meters off the road on the river on this little tiny wood cabin, but this like road was like wooded and dark, and I'd always go home after I was a dishwasher at a restaurant. I'm a 17-year-old teenage boy, and I'm admitting to you about how scared I was to walk down this 300-meter piece of forest, which to me is insane, but it was the truth. I'd truck along anyway. It scared me almost every time. But that's where the magic happens, is when we get outside our comfort zone. I learned to start playing hockey when I was 22 years old, and I play with Paul. He's my co-founder, the co-founder of Intry. We've referenced him a couple times, and he's a remarkable hockey player. All of his friends are remarkable hockey players. He said, come and play. You can learn with us. I was like that fawn before, like literally, like I'm going out onto this ice. I'm literally falling over. Like I take a shot, I miss the puck, I fall over. And I'm way outside my comfort zone, like way outside my comfort zone. And people are making fun of me. They weren't nice. They weren't making fun of me to me, but I heard them laughing and jeering and whatever. But it's okay. I wasn't comfortable, but I learned how to play. And I'm happy now because I can feel Canadian all of a sudden. Not to say you're not if you can't play hockey, but that's the way I felt. It was some trash, I think. My parents didn't let me play. But that's where the magic happens. And I think often too much people get caught up in this belief system when really that's the reality of the situation. Everybody thinks that failing isn't okay, it's a 4-letter word, but really, it's the only way to win. And I don't know if you guys have heard the Thomas Edison story, the light bulb. He gets interviewed. He's failed 10,000 times, more than 10,000 times. I can't remember the exact number. But this person interviewing him was like, how does it feel to fail 10,000 times? Like, worst question ever. He's like, I haven't failed 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work. And now I got this projector through light, and like it's happened, right? Like this is where great things happen. With J.K. Rowling, anybody know who that is? Right? I didn't know the author's name until like a couple weeks ago. Harry Potter, right? 12 publishers said no to her. We don't want your book. They're not happy that they did that, but she kept going, right? And then she found one and bam, right? 12 failures, though. I mean, that can be tough when it's like your life's work getting rejected 12 times. So remember that TV I was telling you about we put up at the university? It fell down. It just fell out of the wall. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. But it didn't stop us from trying to do it again and trying to do it again. We made mistakes, lots of mistakes. We still make mistakes, but we dust ourselves off. We keep going. There was this one time, so I was in sales training. I'm in life training now, but I was in sales training. And this, I can't believe I'm going to share this story with you. This trainer says to me, this is how you leave a message. I tell him, no one's calling me back. I don't know if anybody here is in sales or anybody's ever had to sell anything. Okay, there's a couple. People don't phone you back. I didn't know that. I was like, hey, it's Rob. my number's this, please call me back. I have some questions for you. And they just wouldn't phone me back. I was like, this is crazy. So I go into sales, I'm like, no one's calling me back, as if it's like me. And he's like, hey, try this. Oh, this is so bad. He goes, try this. It's Rob Murray. We need to talk. 226-979-1206. Hang on the phone. I'm like, okay. I do it. Sales trainers telling me to do, I'm paying like remarkable, like I couldn't afford to go and I was doing it and I was still paying, I was going, I do it. And like 20 minutes later, person calls me back. I see the number, I'm like, yes, this is magic. I'm gonna do this forever. I go, Intrigue Media, Rob speaking. Person, Intrigue what? Media? I thought someone died. Do you have any idea what you just did? I want you to come in here and just blew me up. True story. I was up the road. I said I could be there in 10 minutes. She hung up the phone on me. But I tried it, And a lot of people wouldn't. I can see why. But I didn't care. I was like, all right, I'll go. He was like, you know what you need to do? I was like, tell me, man. Try it. And I messed up. I smashed my face. But I failed and I failed and I failed. And, now we're starting to win a little bit. Don't do that. If you're in sales, don't do that. I would never give that piece of advice to anybody. The distance between your dreams and reality is action. That's it. We got to move, right? Even if it's the wrong move, we got to make decisions. We got to start moving. This is a picture that you can't see. That's okay. This here is a recycling bin, outdoor recycling bin at the University of Guelph. I came from Whistler and moved to university to go to school because I was tired serving dishes. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it wasn't for me. I was a server in restaurants. I wanted to get educated, came to the University of Guelph, and Whistler is like super green. It's physically green because there's lots of trees, but it's like very environmentally conscious and aware. Recycling's amazing, really cool programs. I come to the University of Guelph and I hear about how green the school is and how corporately responsible it is and the social programs, environmental programs, and there was no outdoor recycling. None. I was like, this is crazy. How can the University of Guelph, full of like arts and the best environmental minds and programs and like tons of hippies and like all this stuff, not be recycling outdoors? And I investigated a little bit. Like, what's the deal? They're like, well, it's it's difficult. There's logistical issues. And I was like, that's crazy though. Like, I can't stand that. So I was like, all right, well, what do we got to do to get a project going to do this? They're like, well, we don't have any money. It's not in the budget. Fair enough. Well, then say we had money, where would it go? Well, we don't know. Got to do a pilot project. Got to do a study, feasibility study. Not in the budget. Not gonna do it. All right. What else needs to happen? Need approval. Someone's got to sign on it. I was like, all right. Anything else? No. I was like, so if we have money, feasibility study, and approval, we're good? Yeah. Done. I start calling people. I'm in residence at the University of Guelph. I find out, because I'm on my inter-hall, which is part of the residency at the University of Guelph. I was at East Residence. I was part of the inter-hall committee or whatever there. We have a budget. And kids, students come to the council and they pitch their ideas and then we give out some money. There's like each residence has $1,500 a year or a semester to like give away for different things, initiatives for kids. I'm like, perfect. So I source out some outdoor recycling. Google was now working pretty well. And it was like $800 for me to get this thing shipped for this outdoor recycling bin that other schools had used. I think the University of Windsor, doesn't matter. I sourced it all out. I asked the University of Windsor, the people there, what they did for a feasibility study. They gave me their like kind of parameters. I did the same thing at our school on my own time. I go to each residence and plead my case for each of them to give me $100. There was like 8 residences. I got $800. I was like, perfect. I got money. I got feasibility study, and now I need approval. Get a call from the president of Interhall, which is a student, and says you can't use that money from the kids that said they give it to you because it's not for residences. You can't do that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. These are all. I'll put all the names of the kids that raised the money on the first one that goes out there. They'll have a legacy at the university. This is a student in 4th year. I'm in 1st year. You can't do that. I'm taking all the money away. You're not getting a dime. Like, this is nuts. It's crazy. Fine. So be it. That's the way it is. Part of the policies and bylaws, yada, yada, yada. I go to the Central Student Association board and I say, hey, I need some money for this. $800. They have like a $100,000 budget. They say, fine. We'll give you the money as long as you get a signature from the physical department that says they're going to do this. It actually was my third year. I stand corrected. Second year. So I go, and there's transitions in corporate structure. So I decide to sit in the office because no one's making responsibility. It's not my job, it's someone else's job or transitioning. So I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to go sit in the office and I'll talk to people as they come through and I'll find out who can do this. And I sat there for 6 hours. I talked to like 6 different people. And finally, I found the name of the guy who needs to sign this thing. And I talked to him and he said, no, I can't sign that yet. You have to give me a month or two. A month or two goes by. I can't sign it yet. I'm not officially that person. You know, I don't feel comfortable signing it. So I'm now in my third year. This is like 8 months of going on to get this one recycling bin. Coolest thing happened though, I'm walking down Weingard Walk and this student comes up to me and says, hey, are you the guy trying to do outdoor recycling? I'm like, yeah. She's like, what can I do to help? Huh. I was like, no, I'm good. It's all good. Like, I kind of felt awkward. I didn't really know what was happening. She's like, that's really new. That's really cool. I believe in what you're doing. And she heard about it in the presentations I did in Interhall in all the different residences. But what I found was really neat with this whole thing, oh yeah, and by the way, I still haven't graduated because I left because it started Intrigue. I'm working on a book right now that'll get me my credits to graduate, and then my aunt will be really happy because I'll have my degree. I didn't get the recycling bin on campus. 1 year later, the girl who talked to me made it happen. The coolest thing for me that came out of that was when you start to make a change in the world and other people believe in that change, they start to gravitate towards the same cause. So even if you don't get a chance to make it happen, people will pick it up and keep going. So a struggle that seems insurmountable isn't, because if we start to make the movement, others will follow. That's something I thought was really, really cool. And now it's there. This is a real picture. This is it. They're recycling at the University of Guelph. Woo! Second piece, serve others. Now, this one is something that I kind of struggled with, but I thought it was it's very appropriate from my perspective anyway. But I used to think serving others meant to, like, you know, give things to other people and, like, you know, really go out of your way to just, like, kind of be a servant. Like, I don't know how to say it better, but I realized that serving others is a lot more than that. And I also thought that I was a really good leader a couple of years ago. And I read this book. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, John C. Maxwell, pretty cool book. It was like a punch in the nuts when I read it. I was like, I'm really bad. This is not cool. I got a lot of room for improvement. One of the principles in it was, and stuck to me like since I read it, and it will always stick with me, is that you have to win the hearts of the people around you if you want to ask for their hands, which is something I really believe in strongly. But when we started Intrigue, and we started going, we got this process, and we started hiring people, salespeople specifically. I'm kind of the head of sales right now, and there's like 16 of us. I was like, this is magic. I've got this process. I've written it out. I've scripted the whole thing. I know how to, like, deal with 99% of any question that comes or statement that comes. I don't handle objections. We don't need to get into the philosophy of the whole thing, but I had this process, and I was like, if you take this process, you will win. You will close deals, you will make money, you will buy your home, you'll support your family, you'll rock it, you will win in life. And then I was like, this is it. This is like gold, Jerry, gold. And no one followed it. I was like, what the heck is going on here? I'd shake my head like, this is crazy. I've like spent 4 years of my life building this magical system and no one's following it. I was like, but it's just plain. I could just, it's here. Do that. Nothing. But I realized that I didn't win their heart, and it was only after I went out with one of these people, who no longer was their organization, but with one of these guys. I went out for the whole day with him, in a car together, finding different places to call on, walking into places together. This is after him being there for 6 months. Shame on me, I should have done it first day, but I will next time, and I have done it since. And afterwards, he's like, I really appreciate you coming out with me and spending time and going through this stuff together and really giving me a chance to succeed. He's like, where's that thing you wrote? And he wanted to learn about it. And I realized only after I touched his heart was he willing to kind of buy into the process and listen to me a little bit. I mean, this is great leadership, right? And this is what I was doing. I was like, do this. I mean, maybe it wasn't, I wasn't like that. I mean, maybe I was sometimes, though, and Seth could probably attest to that. I mean, sometimes I was pretty frustrated. But then I realized that people who weigh in buy in, which was the other principle I took away from this John C. Maxwell 21-Year Frugal Laws of Leadership. And once we got people brainstorming around how should we behave, how should we live, what types of things we should be doing, and why are we here, and we get the whole group involved. Today we actually had a really great session on how to create a world-class service experience, and we got the whole team weighing in on how to make it happen. And it was so cool, because when we were done, we had like 15 minutes left over, and we all found a couple of different ideas based on the feedback that we had all given each other, and people just kind of started chomping at the bit. Because they weighed in, they bought it. And that's something that I think is really, really important when it comes to serving others. Giving them the opportunity to weigh in is a service, instead of telling people what to do. Even though it's in their best interests. Wait, no, it's not. That's how it works. So, and I'm not sure how this works with children. I can only think about it from my perspective, and now I'm trying to think about it because Hunter's growing up. But like, man, I'm going to do my best not to tell him what to do. I'm going to do my best to support him and love him, be there for him, let him fail a little bit. Not too much, hopefully, but like let him go and like ask his input on how things should happen and shape things together instead of telling him what to do. I don't know about you guys, but I got a little bit of don't tell me what to do in me. And it's very rare, except for when I'm paying somebody a remarkable amount of money to train me, when they say, do you know what you need to do? And I listen. There's another person who's a mentor of mine at Innovation Guelph. He says, do you know what you need to do? And I'm like, give it to me. Pretty much anybody else, when they say, you know what you need to do? I'm like, I can tell you what you need to do. With the exception of George. If George said, you know what you need to do? I'd be like, okay, George, hit me. Well, you won my heart. You did. Yeah. And now I'm in. This came from Andy Stanley, not this tea or picture or anything, but the idea of filling someone's cup. It was a LeaderCast event 2 years ago, I think. I'm under the impression you guys are all reading this awesome book, Next Generation Leader. Today was a chapter on certainty and clarity, right? Now we got to be clear even if we're not certain. Something about crossing the river. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're doing it. We're leaving in 3 days. Really cool chapter. I've been loving the book. I'm almost done, but it's a fantastic read. I think Andy Stanley's a pretty awesome guy. And we talked about filling cups, pouring ourselves into other people. I think that's a great way to serve others, giving them insights. I hope that I can fill your cup up a little bit today. That's my goal, really, is just if I can get a drop in there, something that you didn't think of or didn't consider before, maybe it's a little bit different, or maybe you're hearing the same thing again, but this time it's enough to get us to move a little bit. So what we've done, because for the record, I have these great ideas, but then I forget about them. But I have this thing called Google Calendar. It's amazing. You can do events and then like repeat them, and they just like show up in your calendar forever. It's amazing. So we do these bi-weeklies and these weeklies where we just sit down with our team one-on-one. Okay, what can we do to help you? What's on your mind? Here's something that I wanted to share with you. I think this might help you grow. Here's some different perspectives on the challenges you're facing today. And it's amazing doing that over time and demonstrating through action that we want to serve the people around us by filling their cups. Pretty cool. So the question that I wanted to ask you guys today a little bit was like, who's filling your cup? Is there anybody adding value to your life? Do you perceive them as a leader or a mentor? And then if that's the case, awesome. If it's not, maybe you can find some people, and there's probably all are. You're around here. But then the question is, whose cup are you filling up? I think it's really important for all of us to find cups to fill all the time. And the coolest part about it all is that, and it seems, counterintuitive based on the analogy, but when you fill someone's cup, your cup fills up. It's weird. It's just this thing. I don't know, for me anyway, I get tons of value out of filling the cups around me. Then I find that it's easier for me to have someone fill my cup. And, what can we do to add value to each other? Serving others isn't just about giving them what they ask for. It's also about giving them perspective and maybe even challenging them. This is something that's really cool. The art of leadership is saying no, not saying yes. It is very easy to say yes. And that's the truth. It's always, if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. I said yes to being here today, and I'm happy I did. But it also meant that I'm saying no to putting my son to bed today. Megan said yes to coming and watch. I mean, she also said no to putting. So we got Grandpa Paul, who's the best. He's a remarkable water skier too, and he's filling my cup. I'm trying to learn from him from doing that. But he's out there. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's awesome, and he's putting him to bed where he's not so good at going to bed quite yet, but he's getting there. So we're going to see how it goes when we get back. And he said yes to that, which means he said no to something else. But I think it's something we forget, and a lot of times, for me anyway, I was just saying yes to everything. I was like, yeah, let's go, yeah, let's do it, I'm in, let's go. And then it was really funny. We were at this, I keep referring back to this leadership lunch because we talk about some of these principles a lot. And we had this exercise that actually Seth led this presentation on margin and how we create margin in our lives. And it all came down to priorities, which, I mean, okay, goals and priorities, yeah, okay, great. But we actually wrote them down, which I hadn't really done before, my priorities. And then even cooler, I went back and I said, hey, Megs, maybe we can do this together. You write down your priorities, and then we'll share them together, and we'll see if they're aligned and maybe what we need to discuss. Coolest thing that happened, I realized immediately why my lawn was 3 feet long. Not quite, but I mean, it was long. It wasn't even on my list of priorities. House cleaning, lawn maintenance, not even close. We also realized when Megan was tired, because sleeping wasn't on her priority list, not that you had any choice at this time. But it made it really easy for us to start making decisions on what we wanted to say yes to and what we wanted to say no to. As an example, someone would say, hey, do you want to go to this concert with Alabama Shakes? It's a band that I've really wanted to see, kind of, for a while. Live music was, and like being with friends was on our list of priorities, but it was like 5, maybe 10 years ago, it would have been 1 or 2, but now it's 5. And there was other things that we had going on, like a son who's like a baby, and he's amazing, and he's trying to learn how to sleep right now, and Meg just went back to work 2 days ago. So we're like, maybe this one's not one for us. But man, it was a lot easier to do when we had these priorities figured out, so we knew what we could say yes to, so we wouldn't say no to something else, and we knew what we could say no to, so we could say yes to something else. And I think that's something that, I don't know, for me anyway, it was only like a year ago that concept kind of like, boom, oh, cool. If I keep saying yes to everything, I won't have any clean clothes. I guess that's the moral of the story. Leadership, it was this, there's tons of amazing stories, but I always find it's about adding value. And I don't think it's about adding value where I believe I can add value. I think it's about adding value where people want value added. Because there's a big difference between rescuing people and helping people. I think the only way you can find out what value you can add to people is to understand them better and to get to know somebody better. Because we get to know people better, we understand what's important to them. When we understand what's important to them, we can find what matches in where we can add value, and then maybe we have an opportunity to add value to people. I think that's super important because a lot of times, and this happened to me a lot, especially when we were starting up, I read books like crazy. I drink books, I eat books, I'm just, books. I need knowledge because I don't want to make all these mistakes that so many people have made before for a really long time. Thank goodness I found some of these books by Andy Stanley and John C. Maxwell and other people like Jim Collins and Simon Sinek, because they found out this great stuff after massive years of study and crazy experience, and I've been able to correct my course a little bit to get there a bit faster. But when I was learning all about best practices when it comes to marketing and business and culture and finances and modeling and business and yada, 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 I'd run into these people and I could see instantly, they was like, oh man, you have massive dysfunction, you're underpriced, your margins are just not gonna last, you gotta change the way your service model exists because you're literally putting yourself out of business with every sale you make. And they'd be like, whoa, 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 I didn't talk to you about this. I didn't ask for that help. And I'd be like, this is what you need. And they're, no, it's not what I need. And I was trying to rescue everybody, and people don't necessarily want to be rescued. There was a really cool story about a guy who helped out a friend moving. And he said, hey, can you come help me move on Saturday in 2 weeks? He's like, yeah, I can come help you move on Saturday in 2 weeks. He's like, great, we're starting at 8. Okay. So he goes, he shows up at 8 o'clock in the morning, And the guy's still in his robe. Like, coffee's just starting to brew. Like, no one's there. Moving truck isn't even in the driveway. He's like, nothing's packed. He's like, what is going on here? He's like, oh, great to see you, Dave, whatever. He's like, all right, we're going to get going. He's like, okay, like, what's going on? He's like, oh, yeah, no worries. We'll get done soon. No big deal. We'll be done, 10 o'clock rolls around, 11 o'clock rolls around. This guy's busting butt. He's like moving pianos on his own, not really, but I mean, this like he's moving all this stuff for this guy, getting it out in his driveway. Finally, the moving truck comes. He's like lifting stuff in. And he realizes that he's helping the most, like he's working the hardest, and he starts to go, "This is not cool. This is garbage." He starts to get resentful of the fact that he's working so hard and no one else around him is working hard. Now, pizza came. That was cool. So he diffused a little bit, had a bite. But he's working till 6, 7 o'clock at night, and he's bitter, angry. He leaves, he goes home. He's like, I'm done with this. You guys aren't even done. You're on your own. I'm out of here. 7 o'clock at night. He's driving home. This is BS. Can't believe this guy did this to me. But did he do anything to him? Like, he didn't. So the next time he asked him to move, like 5 years later, he's like, no problem, Bob. I'll be there at 10 o'clock. I'll stay till 2. Definitively going to get some pizza, right? He's like, yep. And then I'm out of there. He's like, no problem. He goes, 10 o'clock, gets there, does whatever he can, eats some pizza till 2, he leaves, no problem. That's helping. The first one's rescuing. And what's interesting is that the guy who he was helping didn't really appreciate it, and he was super angry and bitter about the whole process. Because that person didn't want that type of value added. And there was this massive difference between his standards of work ethic and the expectations of others and how he placed them on each other. So I think if we understand what's important to people, we can help people, we can add value instead of rescue. Boss and leader. I don't know if you guys have seen this image before, but I think it's just perfect. What's that? Oh, it's so good. I think it just articulates the differences in what leadership needs to be today in order to create loyalty in the millennials who aren't loyal, or anybody in that matter. Leaders get out in front, they show the way. Bosses crack the whip, sit on a podium. It's crazy. This is something that I believe in like crazy. I used to think that being a CEO would be like the coolest thing. You have a cool car, you get to tell everybody what to do. You don't have to do anything. Go to lunch meetings, be awesome. Like, I literally thought that's what a CEO was. And like, I'm trying my best to do this, and I'm sweating balls, and I'm just like killing myself, and I'm like, this is crazy. It's tons of hard work. I work harder now than I ever have in my life. I love it. It's amazing. It's super rewarding. But it's not what I thought it was way back when. And I'm privileged. I really believe I'm privileged to do that. So, when it comes to inspiring, who inspires you? This is the team at Intrigue. Seth, you inspire me. What he said about today, created expectations. He does it all the time, not just in his words, but in his actions. It raises my game. I gotta be better because he's awesome. And everybody else around us is awesome. And I gotta inspire the people around me. This is something that makes me inspired to get up every day, to work my butt off, so that I can look in the mirror and look at everybody around me with my head up high, knowing we're doing something great. Because how could I ever hold high expectations of people around me if I don't hold them of myself? And I used to be lazy. Like I said, Seth, I would never hire me when I was 22. Not a chance. I was irresponsible on purpose. I was just having fun. And I'm glad I did, because I got it out of my system, and now I got a chance to do something that I believe is great. And then who do you want to inspire? Megan and Hunter, these are the people that I want to inspire. And the coolest thing about it is they inspire me to be great, because that's my little guy. I want him to be able to look at his pops and say, what a cool dad. So who do you want to inspire? Thank you.